What's going on, Workforce? Brian here, and in today's video we're talking about our Final Fantasy or Fantasies White Whales, the Final Fantasy games that we've tried and tried and tried again to complete. And this comes from Claudusto, who posted this over on Ginger Gaming Radio, saying Final Fantasy IX is my white whale. I just can't see it through. I've lost count of how many amount of times that I've started it and ended up moving on to something else. It's just not that it doesn't interest me. I love the characters and the story. And obviously his comment got me thinking. And speaking of Ginger Gaming Radio, if you guys really enjoyed the Final Fantasy 6.0 predictions video, I just released the CrystalCore episode 3, in which we go over your comments, talking about what jobs that you actually want to see, what jobs that Mione and I didn't mention in the video. So if you guys want to check that out, link will be in the description. Hope you enjoy the CrystalCore radio podcast. I've been having a lot of fun talking about it. Plus, there's a lot of little interesting Square Enix news that has been popping up here and there. Minor stories that obviously don't warrant like their own video, but hopefully you guys enjoy the format, and always looking for feedback as to what you think about the new podcast. So anyway, if you haven't heard, I've restarted playing Final Fantasy IX due to the fact that if you have Game Pass, you can play it today on PC or on Xbox with Game Pass Ultimate, and this has been really incredible. It's been really impressive because it gives me more places to play. I've had issues with my capture card, so being able to have it on Windows, being able to have it on Xbox if I'm downstairs hanging out with the family, it's truly this incredible experience, and I talked about that over on Ginger Gaming Radio, but I haven't gone into too much detail here on Work to Game. Why am I doing this? Why am I playing Final Fantasy IX again? Well, I love Final Fantasy IX. I always have. I have this great fond memory of it. However, that when I go and I put together my tier list, which I did I think last year, people really seemed to like that video, and I got to thinking, what's changed in my life? Like, would I rank these games differently as an adult, as opposed to the fact that the majority of the Final Fantasy experience I've had was while I was in like college and high school and middle school and things like that. So I wanted to see how I perceive these games, like 9 and others, as an adult, and see if that actually impacts my rankings of these games itself. And so I've decided to take on this insane project, and it's a lot of fun. So it's it's not really work, but it's a lot of fun in playing it. And the fact that xCloud and gaming and PC and Xbox has really opened up the ability for me to play in more places. And you might be thinking, Brian, why don't you just play on the Switch? Well, if you know, I have kids and I have to compete for screen time in this case. Obviously, I'm the adult and I could totally bully my kids because they're short. I choose not to do that. I choose to let them and play, and we talk about it and more. But sometimes I just want to sit back and play a game either on the TV or on my Xbox. And I just got into xCloud, so there's that. I don't think I can talk about that too much, but we'll have to. I can't wait to share more thoughts about it. However, Final Fantasy IX is currently not in xCloud, but Final Fantasy World is. And I was like, no, Brian, focus. You want to finish 9, and then I want to move on, ideally to whatever is next for the Final Fantasy and the and Game Pass, be it 10, 10-2, be it 12. I do already own 8, so if none of those are available, I'll play through 8. And that's kind of what we're going to get at here with the White Whale. So, speaking of White Whales, and obviously the main focus and subject of this video, Final Fantasy VIII is my White Whale. I have started that game 5 times now. I have gotten to disc 4, and every time something has dislodged me, or I've lost the save, or it's just the way it is, and I'm going to finish Final Fantasy VIII. I think I have to, especially if I really want to have a true tier list system. There's a couple other Final Fantasy games that are on my White Whale list, but those were not originally released in the USA. So obviously in the comments below, I'd love to hear your thoughts about what your personal White Whales are, because I think we all have them. We obviously have our favorite Final Fantasy list. I would be surprised if you've never heard of Final Fantasy and this is what YouTube decides to recommend it. But if that's the case and you're still here, howdy howdy. So with that, Final Fantasy VIII is my White Whale. And actually, when I think about it, when I sit here and say I'm going to look at what's available in Game Pass, because I want to have that ability to play anywhere, and hopefully xCloud is released maybe sometime this summer, that's just going to empower me to be able to kind of achieve this list. I am currently installing Final Fantasy Tactics again on PC, trying to do the BlueStacks thing. We're going to see if that works and how that goes. because I think that's going to be an important piece of it. I originally didn't list tactics in my series tier list because I was like, I want to be pure. I want to focus in on just the numbered Final Fantasies. But honestly, tactics is God tier, in my opinion. And I would love to see, and I really want to play through that game again. And the fact that there's not a real easy option to do that is a little bit concerning. And no, I don't like mobile games, but maybe BlueStacks, because it is the mobile version, maybe will change my mind. We'll have to wait and see. The other side of this is, if you guys aren't aware, I've been working on a villains tier list for like, I think 6 months now, but it has never felt right. It never felt something I was proud of. And so I think as a part of like this experiment of replaying the Final Fantasy games as an adult, I think I can approach that in a reasonable way. Hopefully you guys are going to be interested in watching that. I know I'm really excited about it, so even if you're not interested in watching it, it's going to come to the channel or on Ginger Prime at some point. We'll have to wait and see how I decide to edit it and film it and more. Regardless, really excited about it. So we talked about 8 because there's nothing like I dislike about 8. There's not a thing. It's not like, oh man, like I really wish. I was like, 8 has blown me away every time I've started it. I love the characters. I don't know why I've never been able to cross that finish line. With Final Fantasy games, if you guys aren't aware, with some exception, I think 15 would be one of those exceptions, 14 one of those exceptions, I sit down and I play it all the way through. The majority of my Final Fantasy experiences all tend to be I start and stop, and then I start and finish. So it's like I get to a point, maybe I'm level 40 or 50 or, somewhere towards, I would say, two-thirds or, 3/4 of the way through the game. And then I take a year break. It's always seemed like at least a year. And then I come back and I hit it and I finish it hard. And that's just been my whole plan. 8 has never fallen into that, but the others have. I did it with 9. I did it with 12. I did it, with 10. 10-2 might be an exception. I think I just hammered that one out. And then, so like when I look back at my Final Fantasy history, that is ultimately what it ends up being. So all that being said, now if we go into the games that were later ported in, to America, all numbers I'm going to use here are the Japanese numbers. So if I say 3, I mean 3, not 6. 6 is incredible. And so let's start with 3. 3. I got it on the DS, I think sometime around when the Wii originally came out. And I played it, and it was hard, and I loved it. And I just had a heart, like with mobile games, I don't know what it is. Like the Switch is an exception that I can actually play for a decent amount of time in handheld mode, but I really appreciate the controller. And that's why I think I'm gravitating towards things like xCloud, Stadia, GeForce Now. Like being able to play that on my phone with a real controller has been just a real comfort thing to me. Again, I don't know. I'm probably in the minority here, but regardless, it's way more comfortable for me to hold that an Xbox controller, even over the Switch itself, but the Switch it's far more comfortable for longer gaming sessions in handheld mode. So, 3. Honestly, I feel horrible about it. I started it. I even have purchased it and downloaded it on PC, and I have yet to start it. I feel horrible, like as a Final Fantasy fan, because that is something that is so intricate to that. That's the real, like they really leaned into the job system at that point. A lot of the systems from there, obviously the first one had it, but you could change jobs within Final Fantasy 3. Final Fantasy 2, I don't know if I'm going to count that as a white whale. It's so different. I played a lot of it back in the day. I think there was an anthology or something of that. And I ended up playing a lot of it. I just didn't like it, I think. So in my definition of white whale, it's like you've enjoyed it. There's no reason that you haven't completed it, but I'm going to leave it at that. We'll have to see, I think, as it comes down to the rankings. I might spend some time with that one. That's the one that's up in the air. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below if I absolutely should finish 2 as a part of this, especially the villains tier list and the re-ranking of the series tier list. But all that being said, 3 is there. And the one I think that, I don't know if it's going to disappoint you the most, 5. I have played and started 5 numerous times. I've also gotten to the same similar point, but I've never finished it. I've never finished 5, and there's no reason I shouldn't have. I love everything I experienced with 5. That's why I think, again, this whole video's point is not just to get kind of y'all's thoughts, because I like to have those discussions. I'd like to toss y'all's discussions and comments over on to CrystalCore Radio for an upcoming podcast. But beyond that, I want to just make sure, like, man, I really want to play through it. I want to finish these games, get these off my bucket list, and then obviously kind of revisit them thematically in the form of a video from a kid to an adult. You know, like how do I relate to the characters? How do I engage with that? So there's a content piece of it, but then there's also just the idea of why I have never finished that. I'm personally really excited about playing through 6, and so my strategy here, hear me out, my strategy comes down into the idea that maybe by the time I finished a couple of these, we'll hear news of like maybe a 6 remaster or, you know, something of that nature, where we get to see these games brought forward into the modern consoles and to the ability to play them in multiple places. I won't be playing any of these mobily. I won't be playing any of these unless it's either on, like if I have to, the Switch is definitely there, but I won't be doing these on like a DS or a 3DS or something like that. I can't do it. I can't do long gaming sessions on those platforms, and that's just going to kind of be the rules for the road. Now, without further ado, that's the content. That's my confession for you guys, my Final Fantasy confessions. I'm very excited about playing these games. I'm not really looking forward to a couple of them. I'm really just not looking forward to 13 now. I'm not looking forward to 13-2 or 13, Part 3, Lightning Returns. But I do feel it's important to play those games if I'm going to be, completely honest in that regards. However, so we'll have to kind of figure out what that schedule and how I go about doing that. Shout out to Victorious for hitting that join button and here supporting us here at the Workforce. You are truly an epic individual. Thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoy your emotes. Hopefully you enjoy the little badges. Hopefully YouTube levels up the membership program and make it more viable and valuable to everybody here on the platform. Also, shout out to Metal Militia 89 for subscribing. Welcome to the Workforce, Metal Militia. You are epic. Thank you. Hopefully you enjoy the content here on this channel. And if you guys are interested, you can check out some of our other channels. A final thing before we say goodbye in this video is that if you guys have been missing the podcast, we returned last week with Danny from Gamertag Radio, and we have been running all our podcasts over on the Casually Hardcore podcast channel. You can go check that out. That's a creator-focused interview-esque podcast, and then what you'll find over on Ginger Gaming Radio is more of a game focused show in this regards, with news, discussion, and more. And then we just actually released our first episode of WTF Radio, and that's, you could stand for What the Friday, could stand for What the Freelancer. We're talking about Anthem in that episode, and I think this week, if we were able to schedule it, me and Chaos Prime, we're going to be talking about Crucible, which just came out. So that's the news. That's what's going on with the channel. That's our discussion for today. Who knows what else is going to happen? I think tomorrow we're going to see some Outriders, which is a Square Enix action RPG with People Can Fly, kind of Gears-y War-y kind of RPG. Looking forward to it. Can't wait to go hands-on with it at some point. And it looks like that's not been delayed, so that's going to be holiday 2020. So anyway, I like I like games. So regardless, thanks guys for watching. Hopefully you're all having a fantastic day. I love your faces, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Hopefully you've enjoyed that video, and it's time once again for Secrets from the YouTube Creator Space. If you guys didn't know, Mioni's real name is Bumblebee Tuna. Just ask him about it.